What's happening, guys? This is Mike at Mike's Soul Dragon channel, and I had got to thinking that I wanted to start doing a segment of videos on books that have kind of been forgotten about, books that were really popular at one point in the past, and now, uh, because they were overlooked or have become forgotten about, basically because they weren't popular when social media took off or when the internet became really, really mainstream, that people don't really talk about them very much anymore, or only us old heads that were in the shops at the time remember them. And I kind of thought it would be cool to start this series of books off with Rising Stars. And part of the reason why I thought it would be cool to do that is because my shop had this trade paperback in its used trade paperback section, and as you can see, super water damaged, but basically it's good enough to still read. And he actually threw it in at no charge. He had $4 on it when I went in there to pick up my books earlier, and I brought it up to the shelf, and he was like, "Man, I'll just go ahead and throw this in," because it's so beat up and so water damaged that really no one else was going to pick it up. And that kind of, I had thought about doing a video on this book, but I didn't have any issues around, so that kind of solved that problem. But for those of you who do not know, Rising Stars was an Image book put out by Top Cow, as you see right here, and it came out in 2000. And the writer is J. Michael Straczynski, who, if you do not know, he is the creator of the sci-fi TV show Babylon 5. He was incredibly prevalent on a couple of kids cartoons. He was a writer on He-Man. He worked on the He-Man cartoon. He worked on the real Ghostbusters cartoon. Just a guy who has had his hand in a whole bunch of different television projects, animated, live action. I believe that this was his first trip into comic books, and this came out in 2000, and it was at the time one of the very rare instances where a book had a set start point and a set stopping point, which means he had a story to tell, and when he was done telling it, that he was going to end the book. He wasn't going to drag it out 50, 60, 70, 80 issues, try and make it a franchise or whatever. Although it did have a couple of spin-offs tied into the characters in the book. So, but really, once this story was told, that was it. And it's a book I feel like is ahead of its time, because it is, I'll get into it a little bit right here, and you kind of get a gist of it right here in this introductory. This is the story of how we came to be, of what happened to us and to those we knew and loved and fought, where it went right and where it went wrong. 60 years, 113 people born with power. The story of the world we touched, and all places where the world touched us, and the terror and the beauty and the death that happened in the spaces between. Rising Stars, Born in Fire. So basically, the concept of this book is there is an event, some sort of cosmic event in some Midwestern town, where everybody in this town, this small town, all the women become pregnant at the exact same time. 113 babies are born all at the same time, and it's revealed that later on all of these kids grew up with special powers of varying abilities, power levels, strengths, etc., etc. And this is really one of the earliest books where you see kind of almost like the TV show Heroes, where you see regular people getting powers and not instantly putting on a cape, fighting crime, opening up a secret lair under their house or whatever. You know, by and large, the entire cast of characters here are just very regular people. They, you know, want to go about their lives. They kind of choose to live in incognito, not having anything to do with the event. Now, you do have a handful of characters here in this book that do opt to become superheroes, as you know, superheroes as we would know them or whatever. But by and large, most of the cast flies under the radar. So you have the fact that you have all these kids were born and they get superpowers. So not only do you have a superhero element, you know, people with powers, but you also have the element of that when all these kids were born, the government decided to study them. So they are all raised in basically like an internment camp, you know, although they don't call it that. All these kids are basically raised up together in a small camp, and they are studied by scientists, members of the government. So all the kids have interactions with each other. They have a history with each other. So then you have all that drama that kids have, you know, growing up with each other, knowing each other, becoming teenagers, you know, all of that. And then, like I said, all of it mixed together. You throw superpowers in there, and you've got tremendous amount of storylines and plot and characterization and, you know, people knowing each other. So this whole story starts off with you have one of these members of these kids dies. And the rest of the group, they slowly find out that one of the members has died. But they begin to realize something when the one adult from the town with powers passed away. Everyone else noticed their abilities increased just a tad bit more. So now you have the mystery of who killed one of these superpowered people, where do their powers come from, and why is it that when one of them died, everybody else just got a tad bit stronger. So it is a lot of stuff going on in here. It's very much a action adventure book. You have mystery involved. The other thing is this book takes place essentially in the real world. There are no other superheroes in this world. It is very much like, you know, they say the world outside your window, as Marvel calls it. So you have all these characters, this cast of characters. They are the only superpowered individuals in this universe, in this storyline or whatever. And part of it is you have, one of the more interesting part of it is you get to see what everyone does with their powers and with their abilities. So you tend to have a couple of solo issues that spotlight people. You have like this guy here. He is a guy, he's got super strength, super invulnerability, and he just wanted to help people. So he ends up becoming a cop. You have this guy here. A lot of these names I don't remember. It's been so long since I've read it. But he is very much like he's like a Captain America, Superman type character. He's fighting for the United States government. And you've got another guy here who they never got along when they were younger. So they're just kind of beefing. But it's very much a very interesting look at characters. at what people would be like with this power. See, like, this is the guy right here that could turn to fire. And he was just trying to live a real simple life. He had wanted to get away from all of it. So these street crooks here, they end up stabbing this old lady in his building. And he takes the fight to them. Basically burns the building down. Says he wants the guy who stabbed him. So you have this guy. Then you have, let's see if I can find some of the other people. This is the guy that became, this guy right here, he's the one who became the super cop. Then you have this lady here. She has like healing powers. Everyone is really, the powers are very interesting. They're very very original, very the way J. Michael Straczynski designed them. You know, they're not your typical, well, I'm just strong, well, I can fly, you know, I can shoot energy or whatever. Very unique and original power sets. You know, this guy right here, he's someone who can talk to ghosts. He sees the spirit world. They talk to him. This is our main dude right here. He's the one who is trying to solve the mystery of who killed the character initially and where the power came from. But long story short, then you have like this woman here. She becomes she can assume the look of every person's fantasy. So if your fantasy woman is, you know, 6 foot tall redhead, she can assume that look. You know, she can basically grant you your fantasies. But it is a book that I think is criminally overlooked. A book that I feel like should get more acclaim and more recognition for everything that it was doing. But it had the unfortunate, I don't really know if you would call it unfortunate or not. It came out pre-internet, and it also came out with Image. So that kind of contributes to why it flies under the radar in current times. But I think quite highly of J. Michael Straczynski's Rising Stars. Like I said, it is very much paved the way for shows like Heroes or any other slice of life not really slice of life superhero show, but any other type of show or book that has people having superpowers and not using them in the typical way that we see people portrayed with powers. Also, it has a really cool science fiction side to it, with where their abilities come from, what is the cause of it, and you also have some political intrigue in the rest of the world, and a lot of these shadow governments do not trust these characters and are afraid of the type of powers that they have and how powerful they are and the changes that they choose to make to the United States. So you got a little bit of that Squadron Supreme vibe here, where they start to take over and start to decide what's good for the general public. So a lot of different topics going on in this book. Ran for 24 issues. You can probably find them all on mycomicshop.com, and they should be around, I would guess they're around $3 to $5 each, which is not terrible for a whole entire run of this book. But if you like J. Michael Straczynski, if you've seen Babylon 5 or you're familiar with his work, check out Rising Stars. It's one of the first books he did, and I think it's a gem, and I think it's criminally underrated and a book that has sadly been forgotten about. But if you pick it up, give it a try. Let me know what you think of it, and recommend it to somebody else. We need to get this book back out there. So till next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Bye-bye.